everybody, welcome back to my channel, Made with Love. My name is Heather, and tonight I am making a big double, triple batch of meatloaf. I was going through my freezer and we found some of these extra big club packs of ground beef. So I weighed it and it's just a little over 5 pounds. My basic recipe for meatloaf is for about 1.5 to 2 pounds, so I'm going to for sure double the recipe. So using my hamburger, I've also got eggs. I'm using breadcrumbs. You can use crushed crackers, rolled oats. I like the breadcrumbs. I like the texture of it. I would use onion or garlic. I do have onions. I just don't feel like cutting onions tonight, but I do have my garlic. This is the chopped garlic that I buy, so I'll be using this. I do have onion salt, I believe. I'm also going to be using Worcestershire sauce. I think that's pretty close to how you pronounce it. That's always good. I'm going to be using the honey Dijon mustard, a couple cans of the diced tomatoes with herbs and spices. I'll also be using my ketchup, a big family size of ketchup here, and my different spices. So I got salt and pepper. I'm also going to be using basil, cilantro, oregano. This one says parsley. There's not a lot left in some of these jars. Thyme, cilantro. I guess I got 2 cilantros out. Okay. Oregano and rosemary. So these spices, I'll be using my little spice grinder, mortar, pestle bowl to get a really nice fine powder. So, if that being said, I'm going to pause for 1 second just so I can move this stuff out of my way and get ready to get everything to... just move this stuff out of my way so I can move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, I've got my oven preheating to 350. I'm just going to lightly coat... Okay, that one's empty. I'm going to just lightly coat my... pans. That one's also empty. I'm not the only cook in the house. When I pulled these out, they seemed pretty light and they sounded empty. I'm just gonna lightly coat my pans here. I guess I'm using this one. I guess this is my liquid coconut oil spray. I seem to be out of the other ones tonight, so I'm just gonna set the pans behind me. So first thing first, I'm just going to get the eggs done first. I'm one of those people who I always find when I'm cooking with eggs, if I just crack the egg into whatever I'm making, I always get shells in it. If I crack the eggs into a separate dish, I get virtually no shells. Occasionally I will get a little shell, but when I try to avoid you doing this step, I always get shells in my eggs. So I'm going to be using 4 eggs. That one I almost got shell in that time. So I got my 4 eggs. I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm just going to grab this other bowl here. I'm going to get the hamburger in here now. This is either the fun part or the very messy part, depending on how you feel about hands in raw meat. We have to just do this half at a time. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do this half at a time. I don't think I can fit the full thing in this bowl at the moment. That's okay. I'm just gonna get this in here. I just got my other tripod. I can't get to it. It's in my craft room. I put some stuff in there. It's in the closet in the craft room. I've got stuff piled up in front of the closet. I can't get to it. I wish I could. It would make it so much easier to do the cooking when I've got my floor height tripod. But I'll just use this little tabletop one again for tonight. So I'll just do half at a time. Oops. Okay, so to this I need to add my breadcrumbs, which forgot to open before I touch the hamburger. That's okay. I'm going to end up using all these breadcrumbs anyways. I don't quite know how many is in this jar, but I'm going to pour half of them in here and save the other half for the other one. because it's such a big recipe. I guess I'll just add 2 of these eggs. I know this is like a really messy job. But here it goes. We're gonna mix the breadcrumbs and the eggs and the hamburger. Just really get in here and just really mix in good. Be careful doing that, flipping this, trying to get this mixed in here and not getting the food out. Okay, I'm just going to keep mixing these for a little bit, and then I'm just going to go wash my hands and start the next step. I should have thought about this first. I should have done the spices and everything before I started touching the hamburger, but it's one of those things. You start doing things and then you realize, oh, I should have done the other step first. That's okay, I'll just give it time for the eggs and the breadcrumbs to do what they have to do for this, and I'll also just get the other bowl so I can make the other meatloaf at the same time, side by side. Okay, I washed my hands, and I also just took the other half of the hamburger, put it in another bowl with the eggs and the breadcrumbs. So now I'm going to get out my spices here. I'm not going to measure these because I don't have a lot in these jars. I just want to kind of use up some of these really empty jars so I can start topping up what's in my, that's a little too much, but that's okay. I thought it had less than that because the label kind of tricked me. So I'm just going to start to mix these a bit. I think I'm going to have to grab my larger mortar and pestle because I'm making such a big batch, so I'm just not going to do that quite yet. I'm just going to see if I can just... So that's the oregano. So I've already added the cilantro and basil. Now that's the oregano. I already added the cilantro, so I don't need to add cilantro again. Here's some rosemary. See, I like to, when you buy the spices, I buy them at the bulk barn. I find it's a little cheaper that way. That way you just buy just what you need to fill your jar. And if you have the choice between buying it like this or pre-ground, I like to buy it in the whole. That way I can grind it myself. I feel like I get more spices that way. Because then I get to choose how ground I want some of the stuff to be. Oh, see, that one's parsley and it's kind of like already empty. So I'll just dump the rest of that out. So there's my spices. So I use cilantro, oregano, rosemary, oregano, thyme, and basil. I'm just gonna get these nice. And what I like about buying them in where you grind them yourself, when you grind the spices together, you get a really nice, I guess what's the word I'm trying to find? It's just a very nice flavor and a fragrance. Like as I'm doing this, I can really smell the spices and it smells so good. So I'm going to dump this into this other bowl here. And to this, this is where I'm going to add some of my garlic. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of garlic to this. So I would love to use onions, but I just don't have onions. I do, but I just don't feel like cutting onions tonight. There's just some nights you just don't feel like cutting certain things. And I do like my honey Dijon mustards that I have. I have lots of these little mustards I like to have. Tonight I only have the honey Dijon and the sweet with heat. I don't know how much I put in. Maybe about a good 2 tablespoons of mustard. And then same with this. Like I don't always measure how much stuff I use. just kind of pour in and see what kind of looks good. Kind of like eyeballing it and kind of smelling it. Again, I probably do like maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons of this, just based on how much meatloaf I am making. So now I'm going to add the ketchup. Oops, check. I just thought I saw something when I opened it. I think it might have just been my shadow of my hair. Okay, so I don't see anything in there. I'm just going to use just half a cup and another half a cup. I guess I'll just use a full cup of ketchup. I didn't quite have this, like when I cook stuff like certain things like meatloafs, shepherd's pie, chili, stuff like that, it's more like you add the spices and the stuff to your taste. So I mean, you have a basic recipe, but everything is made to your specific taste. So I'm just going to give this all a good stir. And let's divide this between the 2 batches. Just going to get the rest of that ketchup out of there. And the same with the salt and pepper. I'll add the salt and pepper in just in a moment. Oops, this stuff out of my way. Just bring in, I've got these nice Pyrex bowls that I love to use. Oops, sorry, I'm just trying to get my camera up a little higher. Oops, not like that. Like I said, if I was using my other tripod, it'd be so much easier, but I can't get to it right now. So I've got, this is the half of the thing of hamburger, 2 eggs, and probably almost a cup of breadcrumbs. And then I'll add about half of this mixture. So this one, I'll grab the other one, and I'll add the other half of the mixture to this one here. Grab a little spatula just so I can get all the nice good spices out of here. There. All those good spices are stuck to the bottom of the bowl. Now, move this out of the way. So now I'm going to add the 1 can of the diced tomatoes to each. I'm keeping the juice in there just because I don't like dry meatloaf, so any moisture you can add it's really good. So I'm just going to use this if I can, or do I have to use my hands? It's one of those things. I think I'm going to have to use my hands to mix this in. So I'm just going to do this one at a time. So I'm just going to set this one aside, and I'm going to bring the one baking dish over here so I can mix it and pour it into the baking dish all in one easy step. I'm just gonna get this all in here good. And it's all really nice and moist. That's the one thing, is my meatloaves are never dry. My shepherd's pie are never dry. They're always really moist. It's been a long time. Like, husband, I was telling him I was making this meatloaf a couple nights ago, but just never had chance to. This week, waiting for the hamburger to defrost, and then just really busy with other things that were going on. And me and my husband were talking, and the 13 years we've been together, he says he's never had a meatloaf made by me, because I usually start with a meatloaf, but somehow it ends up going into more like a shepherd's pie. So I do believe I have made meatloaf before, but he doesn't remember ever having a meatloaf made by me. See, it just fits right in here. Oops. Just kind of getting it off on the side here. There we go. See, that just fits right here in my, this is like a 9 by 13 casserole pan. It looks really good. I think my oven is preheated. Now the only thing I have to double check, I believe you cook these covered. I have to double check on that because I just, let's see, it's been a while since I've made this. Usually I know when I make the other stuff, it is covered for the first half the amount of time, like your first baking. Like this bakes for an hour, so if I did cover, I'd probably cover it for 30 to 40 minutes. So that I have to double check. But I will just slip these in the oven just because they will be ready to go in. And I said if I have to cover them, then when I come back and show you what they look like as they're cooking, I will let you know. So here we go with the number 2, meatloaf number 2. All mixed in here good. Just want to get these spices in here really good. And also I just want to get any big lumps. And like I said, it was still pretty cold. Like my hands are so cold because this hamburger is just, it was in the bottom of the deep freeze for a couple months. You know, kind of got buried in the very bottom. Just not in the mood for making anything with hamburger lately. So it just got buried under the pizza and the fish and other things that we've been eating. There we go. I'm just gonna do the same to this one. Put this into there. Just get it in here all even and level as best you can. This one just has got some extra tomato stuff sitting here at the bottom, so I'm just gonna use this and just, I don't like wasting food, so when I've got spices and meat sitting here and chunk tomato sitting here, I just want to get it in here good. Just want to get it out of the bowl. And I think this one, I don't think there was much in here, but there's still, oh, there's some good spices in here. Same thing. Just gonna do this one too. Just get those spices out of the bowl. Okay, so there we go. There's my meatloaf so far. So I'll be putting these in the oven and I'll be back when they're about half cooked so you can see how they look. Okay, so here's the meatloaf. It's been in the oven about 40 minutes. So now I'm going to just check it. So, just get the tin foil off. Yes, you do have to cover for the first little bit. I don't think it's going to be quite ready. I think I'm going to just leave it covered for another 10 minutes and then come back and check on them. I know they take about an hour to cook. But I know you're supposed to leave it off for the last few minutes, but I'm gonna leave it covered for another about 10 minutes for that one. Check the one on the bottom. Sometimes, you know, being on the top or the bottom does change the way it cooks. And these are so thick that, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave them covered another 10 minutes. So I'll come back in 10 minutes and check on them because they don't feel hot to touch. So being in the oven for that long, and I mean, it's not burning my fingers. I mean, like, it's like hot to touch, but not like, hard to explain. But it's hot to touch, but it still feels a little cold in a few places. I don't know why, but so I'm just gonna put them back in for another 10 minutes. So I'll come back in 10 minutes. All right, so it's been another 10 minutes. So I'm gonna see how they look. Yeah, that's starting to look a lot more cooked now. Move that to the center of the oven. So now they just have to cook for just a little bit longer, uncovered. But they are looking really, really good, really moist. So now put them back in for another probably 20 more minutes or so. I'm gonna do 15. I'm gonna set my timer for 15 minutes, so I'll come back in 15 minutes. Let me just set my timer right now. 15 minutes, so I will come back and show you what they look like in 15 minutes. Okay, so here are the meatloaf. All that steam. There we go. Let's see. That feels, oh yeah, that's hot now. Last time I did that, it was kind of warm to touch, but felt a little cold in places. So now the parts that look like the meat's not cooked, that is that's the tomatoes. So that kind of worried me. I thought, oh, is that the meat still pink? No, that just be the tomatoes. So I'm gonna take these out of the oven and I will show you what they look like. Okay, so here is the meatloaf. So I'm just gonna cut into it. Just gonna get a nice chunk out. You can see what it looks like. You can see how nice it looks. It is cooked all the way through. That is good. I was kind of worried that it wasn't fully cooked because it's not. I think I could have used more breadcrumbs because I was making with the amount of hamburger I had. I had, I didn't have enough breadcrumbs. But other than that, that is going to be good meatloaf for supper. Okay, so there is our meatloaf for supper tonight. So again, I wanted to thank everybody who's watching my videos and subscribing to my channels, and I will see you all in my next videos. Bye.